Oh, hello, it's Maggie Pie here, and I want to talk about something with you today that I've been thinking about making a video on for a while, and that's incels. Because as somebody who is a woman, and I'm bisexual, so I do date men as well, and the first thing I'm thinking about with incels, and I've had this conversation with friends before, is that the thing that's putting me off when I see interviews with men who identify as incels, it's never their looks. And I know that that's something that the incel movement is quite hyper focused on. Like, you need to do this, you need to work out, you need to lose weight. It's all about this what do they call them? Chads, I think, and how they get all the women. And I'm going to be honest. Most incels, at least that I've seen interviews of, are not necessarily bad looking at all. And the biggest issue that I have with them is what comes out of their mouths and what they're saying. For example, a lot of them have quite backwards views on things like gender roles, and I'm not saying this because I'm a feminist. I'm saying this because a lot of modern women probably don't want to be with a man who is super traditionalist, or expect her to but she should do all the household work because that's a woman's job, or who is wanting to do a lot of things such as I don't know. But what I'm trying to say here is it's attitudes, and it's also attitudes against women that a lot of incels have, and they're not necessarily that healthy, and they say a lot of shit. They say a lot of stuff that's just I'm not sure about that, but they have a lot of views or false information on things such as male and female biology and how that affects stuff. Women are meant to be in the kitchen, or women are meant to do this, or women are meant to be traditional housewives or whatever. And they also have some quite outright sexist views. And they very often talk about women with a lot of vitriol and resentment. I'm not saying that I can understand what it feels like to be that rejected and to be people saying that, or that people always talking about how it's everything is their fault or whatever, but I just think that the biggest problem that I have with them is their attitudes. And that can, at least in my eyes, literally take somebody from being 7, 8 down to a -5. If I feel what's coming out of their mouths is just I don't know about that. And people say, oh, but what about conservative men? Or what about this? I'm not necessarily talking about just political opinions. I'm talking about things do you respect me as a woman? And when it seems they don't, or when they don't have respect for women, or especially one of my biggest red flags is how somebody is talking about consent, and how somebody is talking about women's agency and right to their own body and what to do with it. And I'm not necessarily talking about pro-life versus pro-choice, but I'm talking about a sense of entitlement that a lot of incels have to women's bodies, and say that, oh yeah, women are the ones rejecting me, and I'm the victim here, and I'm entitled to sex, and I'm entitled to romantic relationships, and I'm entitled to this. And it's the problem is, if people don't want to date you, it's kind of their right not to. And I sound really harsh here, I know, but it's their right, and you need to respect that. And I really don't like the mindset that a lot of them end up with, like, that's like, oh, the women want this, women want that. And other thing that I have issues with is, like, the beliefs that they hold on to, like, about what women actually want. And there are a lot of people out there, like Andrew Tate and Fresh and Fit and some other guys who are like doing so-called like dating content or like a pickup artist, and their ideas of like what women really want is like most women probably don't want that. And I mean, they are the kind of like, at least Fresh and Fit, and I'm particularly talking about Myron here, and to a certain degree Andrew Tate. They have like looks that are good enough that they can use their looks, and they have, or probably can also be very charming and charismatic when they try to hit the woman up, and like, so, but I don't really like, I mean, I have issues with what they're saying, and I would never like date an Andrew Tate, and for me, like, what's coming out of like somebody's mouth, I've been watching a lot of that content, of like how they behave, that's just off-putting as well. So right now it's like, it's attitudes towards women, particularly like lack of respect, and it's entitlement, and it's also like their ideas of what women want or what a man should be. Those are the three things that I think contribute the most to like incels having trouble with dating. And a fourth thing that I think that they should probably do as well, like a lot of them, is working on the social skills. And I'm not saying like, oh, you need to like work on your confidence or like change your personality, but as somebody who's autistic myself, I can say this, that social skills, they're not about your personality, they're not about who you are, they're not about like, they're about skills. Like, I view like having a conversation with somebody, or like knowing like how to like bond with somebody, and knowing like what's appropriate to say and what's not, that was something I needed to learn, and learn the hard way. That was not something that I just had like naturally, the way somebody, I mean, neurotypicals learned as well, but I was definitely not somebody who had an easy time with it, because I'm autistic. And so when incels talk about like, oh, I need to spend this much time on the gym and I need to lose so much weight or whatever, just look at like men around you in general who are dating, and men who like are dating, and like even men who aren't like ultra career focused with like super high paying job, but like just ordinary men. A lot of them have like, are not super fit, super ripped, like super hot. Like, a lot of them just look like ordinary dads because they are. And I'm not saying this to like, oh, they're not attractive, but like attractiveness is something that has quite little to do with looks, and quite a bit to do with other things, such as like your personality, your sense of humor, like how you treat people. And especially how you treat people, that leads me to another thing that not just incels do, but like a lot of guys have, which is that kind of belief that like, oh, women don't want nice guys. No. Like, I think most people, regardless of like the gender and sexual orientation, are looking for a partner who's like genuinely nice. The problem with nice guys is not that they're too nice, it's that they always have like a hidden agenda. And that they're just nice because they're trying to like get something in return. And when you start realizing that, oh, are you actually nice, or do you just have like an inferior, like, do you just have some form of inferior motive here? that can be quite uncomfortable. And once again, it has nothing to do with like looks, or like very little to do with looks. It has to do with a very, again, the entitlement, like, oh, but if I do this, or if I do that, or if I pay for this many dates, or if I pay for that, you can like get whatever. There is like, eventually that should lead to you like falling in love with you, like wanting to have sex with me. And unfortunately, that's not really how it works, and at all, honestly. But it's also something that I think that you should have in mind, is that if somebody is attractive to you and if somebody like you, like, that can be something that you just fail to pick up on as well. So it's not necessarily that somebody is afraid to don't like you. It could be that somebody is afraid to actually ask you out, or like somebody is scared to be rejected, but they actually like you and you're missing it. And that's a situation that I find quite relatable as somebody who's bisexual. Like, this whole idea with like, or like where women don't realize when they're actually on a date, or like, because they're like, this whole idea of like, oh, being friends, or like thinking that the other person just wants to be friends. That's a whole other topic, but I'm not getting into that. But what I am going to say is that it could be that they actually really like you. It could be that you're not necessarily like, or it could be, unfortunately, that you're being too entitled, that you're expecting too much, or that you're playing 4D chess with them, like just wanting for them to be like whatever it may be. And that's really off-putting as well, or can be really off-putting to people when they notice that and they start realizing that, hey, you seem like a little bit too nice, or like you're doing a little bit too much. Are you sure that you're just doing this because you want to be nice, or are you doing this because you're expecting something in return? Because I've seen or heard this kind of like misinterpreted in a way, where it's almost as if like, oh, but the assholes get all the dates, and all like women like are bad boys. And I don't know. I just remember this is only one example, and this is just but I remember in a Facebook group that I was in, for women's particularly, and women talked about how they always, like, if they have a date with a guy, they want to find out if he has a criminal record. And because that's a red flag, or that's something they don't want to invite into their lives. Which, could be a bit unfair, but like, it's something like they want to find out like his criminal record or whatever, because they are tired of, like, I think these are women who have been banned or have been like in relationship with somebody before who like turns out to be a gang member or whatever, and had to deal with that. But it's something that's worth keeping in mind. So much for wanting bad guys. And this is also a myth that's perpetuated by social media and like by pop culture a lot, like the bad guy who's a very nice guy on the inside. In reality, that's not actually the case. Most guys who are assholes on the outside are actually assholes on the inside. And if they start to be assholes on the outside, they could potentially be a lot worse than just like assholes. They could be really bad. Like abusive kind of bad. And this of course goes for women as well. I'm not just talking about men here, but like if somebody is like kind of an asshole or kind of controlling, or like kind of whatever it may be, that those are red flags. And I think that you get to a certain point, like if you've ever dealt with that you get like perhaps a bit overly cautious, but it's about you staying safe and it's about you not being like completely banned. And ending up like traumatized and in a situation where like could be difficult to get out of. Which is, yeah, I don't buy the whole bad guy idea either. I just think it's like, it's questionable at best and it's complete and utter bollocks at worst. And another thing that a lot of incels are like very caught up on is money. And this of course depends on your age and your like education level and like your social and like cultural bubble and all of that. But and of course there are women out there who say that, oh, I want to marry rich, or like money is very important for me, because they view it like perhaps as their way of like climbing the social ladder. And I'm not denying that, but I'm saying that a lot of men who are kind of broke or like kind of like, I don't know, a lot of people meet in like uni or like college or whatever, like, and date, and that means like most people don't exactly have money, like, or like a cool car, whatever, like that's not something that they have necessarily. But it's once again like personality, how they treat people, sense of humor, how they like being perceived, like being nice, like genuinely nice. That's like really important, which I think leads me to my final point with like insults that I find annoying. And that is the fact that they have an attitude on life where they're very defeatist and they think that, oh, but this will never change. A very static mindset. And that's like the biggest problem. And that's where I think a lot of people end up finding, like, I know that people say that, oh, you shouldn't date somebody for the potential, but like, I think it's fine to like date somebody for the potential, but when that potential never seems to materialize, a lot of people are not going to stay with you. A lot of people are going to say, oh, it's time for me to move on, because you're still at the same page where like we met, you're still not done this, you're still not done that, you're still like, you say that you're going to start this business, but you never do it, and I'm tired of like lending you money all the time. Things like that. But it's very rare for like women to think that like, oh, the like my perfect man needs to be like in the top 5% of earners or something, otherwise it's a no. Very few women have that attitude. And those who are might be gold diggers. I'm not going to say that they are, but I'm also not going to say that they never are. Like, a lot of them might very well be gold diggers and just interested in dating people for their money. And that I'm not going to touch now, but that's a whole other, like, problem in of itself that I personally don't think can lead to, like, a particularly healthy relationship. And I said my last point was my final point, but I thought about something else. And that is the fact that, like, incels also a lot of the time have an issue with, like, what was it I was thinking of now? But social skills, but a lot of the time they think that, oh, this will never change. Which I was talking about before. Or never mind. I'm doing these videos completely unscripted at this point, so it's just me rambling, which is why, bear with me. But I don't really find it, like, something that's like a big thing that I want is like 6-pack, money, Lamborghini, all of those things. And considering as somebody who's autistic as well, now coming back to that, I mentioned that before, but like I really want to hammer this one home, but it's really important to actually work on your social skills. And I'm not saying this like, oh, work on your just work on your confidence or whatever, but a lot of confidence will come with like social skills, and try to like get better at things like that. And I'm not necessarily saying just be better at masking, but try to actually get better at social skills. And I mean, there are resources out there like for that. If you Google like how do I talk to people, you can actually find some like valuable resources as well. And that leads me to my final point, is that it's kind of important to like talk to other people, like talk to friends, talk to like, do you have female friends, do you have like a mom, a sister, or whoever that you can talk to, like whatever it is. But like when you find information on the internet, try to validate that with somebody you know, and try to talk to them like, oh, this guy says this, do you think that's true? Because I oftentimes find that like a lot of times incel get too socially isolated and get too like terrified of like talking to people. A lot of my social anxiety as well, which that's a whole lot of stuff. I'm just saying, oh, just get over your social anxiety, but actually I know that's not how it works. But I'm just trying to say that you should probably verify the information that you're getting, or like see what somebody outside of like, especially like what the woman is saying about it. And that's what I wanted to say today. So I don't know, it's about noon here, so I just want to say like, whenever you're watching this, enjoy the rest of your morning, day, night, whatever it is where you are and when you're watching this, and see you next time.